Hey everybody, I've been trying to make this video about 4 or 5 times, so I apologize if this is a little bit random. The point of this video is I think that with what's happened in the last couple weeks with regards to US political policy and remote work, we need to be able to outline the need for what I like to call pragmatic remote work and how we can all work into that. And this is probably going to frustrate the vast majority of the people that pay attention to the videos that I put out, but I don't really care because I just think it's important for us to be able to be mindful of this. So let me begin with the story of how I was being interviewed by this reporter named Jennifer Soar from Business Insider about AI in HR tech. And I think she was probably not too positive about AI in HR tech. I think that AI is actually going to be very positive for HR. There's going to be some negatives as well, but that's a separate video. A surprising realization I had was how she didn't think I was an advocate for remote work. Running Remote, largest conference on remote work. We've written a Wall Street Journal best-selling book right over there about remote work. I've been doing remote work for 20 years. How could you think that I'm not positive or uh, thinking that I am a remote work advocate? And I think it's honestly the politicization of remote work. I think we need to be able to figure out how we can transition remote work to not just millions, but billions of people, and how that's currently becoming very difficult due to the left and right-wing politics that we're currently experiencing today. So in this video, I want to outline left-wing political perspectives that transparency is bad around remote work, and I want to outline how this has spurred on a negative response from the right. Essentially, this left-wing perspective towards remote work is only frustrating the right. And in the reality, the right should be a huge proponent of remote work. And for someone that exists both on the left and the right side of the spectrum, I thought I could make this video about discussing where we're currently going today. Let's lock in. So first off, I want to be able to discuss the facts about remote work. And remote work is more productive by pretty much every single study that you can take a look at. The biggest one, Nick Bloom did this in 2023. He found that remote workers are on average 13% more productive than their in-office counterparts. Microsoft, in a 2023 Work Trend Index, found that 87% of employees feel more productive working remotely, while 85% of their employers are actually skeptical about that. And let me just reinforce that again, okay? So the vast majority of employees feel they're more productive when they work from home, and the vast majority of employers don't believe it. You see an issue here in terms of pragmatic application of remote work. The best solution is to actually provide measurement of remote work. And I think that this is the big issue that we're currently addressing. I'm going to be talking about that in just a second. But lastly, I had this 2023 analysis by Rescue Time, which is actually a competitor to Time Doctor, which is kind of hilarious. But they found that remote workers around the world spend 15% less time in meetings, 30% more time on deep work than their in-office counterparts. So here's the deal. Remote work significantly reduces attrition, i.e. Stanford study with Nick Bloom showed that employees given remote work options had a 50% lower attrition rate than their on-premise counterparts. Owl Labs did a 2023 report. 62% of remote employees would take a pay cut to continue working remotely. Flex Jobs, which is also a great running remote partner, they had a 2023 survey that 80% of employees say they would quit or look for a new job if forced back to the office full-time. Remote work is more profitable for employers. This is a really important thing to be able to reinforce here. Everything I've just told you means employees are more profitable when they are working from home as opposed to working in the office. Let me give you some more stats. Global Workplace Analytics 2023 study, companies save an average of $11,000 per employee per year by allowing remote work. A Cisco study found that hybrid work models improve profitability by 15% due to higher engagement and retention. Forrester Research did this fantastic study showing that remote companies experience lower real estate costs, higher retention, and higher productivity, leading to increased profit margins. Employers have a more profitable, less stressed, and happier workforce when they work remotely. If you've watched a couple of my videos in the past, you know that this is not new news. So, why is remote work becoming less popular? Well, I'm going to tell you why, okay? So, according to LinkedIn's 2024 Global Workforce Report, remote job postings declined 20% in 2022 to just 10% in 2024. Office occupancy rates in the US increased from 40% in early 2023 to 55% in 2024. That's JLL research. So why is everyone going back to the office? And to be honest with you, the announcements of everyone going back to the office is what I'm talking about. The actual hardcore stats, there's a lot of conflicting data to be able to show that remote work is actually pretty darn stable, sitting at approximately 30-ish to like high 20s of the US workforce. But that's also another video for another day, and a bunch of other videos on this channel that you can kind of look through to be able to talk about that. But here's the deal. Executives prefer in-office work because they don't know how to measure remote productivity effectively. And that's not me saying that. That's a Microsoft report from 2023. There's been a political narrative shift literally in the last year, and it's probably a little bit of Elon mixed in with a little bit of Trump, mixed in with a little bit of right-wing politics to be able to say that conservative business leaders now frame remote work as a cultural issue rather than economic one. That blows my mind because right-wing politics should only be focused on economic issues and not necessarily cultural ones, at least in my opinion, as someone, as I said, that basically doesn't fit in the left or right camp. There's also a huge media bias. Coverage has shifted from remote work being the future to a failed experiment, despite all of the data sets I just talked about proving completely and otherwise that that is not true, that remote work is actually way more successful than being back inside of the office. It's also a political issue, right? So if you're right wing, remote work is for lazy people, fundamentally. And if you're left wing, remote work is giving people unbridled freedom. And this disconnect is, to be completely honest with you, it's BS. I was going to say something else, but I can't say it on these channels, otherwise I get demonetized. It's complete and utter BS. You need to understand that it's not an issue of complete and utter freedom and remote workers are lazy. There's a truth in between that, and I want to be able to break that down for you. So, number one, measurement, in my opinion, is absolutely key and fundamental to this, okay? You can't scale what you don't actually measure. Most executives think productivity drops remotely because they don't have visibility into their workforce. Now, this is a bit of a broken record because from Time Doctor, we fundamentally do that as a company. We give people that type of visibility into their workday so that you have transparency and know what's going on inside of your organization. But this, to me, is a critical piece of the pie that the left side of this political spectrum doesn't even want to engage with because of their particular narrative. And the right-wing side does not even want to engage with because they've already been crafted by a negative perception of that left-wing perspective, which is a net negative towards all of remote work. Here's another one. Okay, number two, the minority that ruins it for the majority. Now, I think I've talked about this in the past. There are these things called mouse jigglers, which I have back here in my little glass case. Terms like overemployment, where people are taking on 2, 3, 4, 10 jobs all at the same time, and they're not telling their employer that they are actually working full time for every single one of them. Big time theft issues that are existing. These behaviors make trust harder to justify. And we can talk about trust all day long. But if you have these things inside of the work environment, and if an employer sees it even once, then because there's no transparency, the assumption is that everyone is currently doing that. This is not just little tiny businesses. These are massive, massive companies. And we've seen this inside of Time Doctor time and time again. It's incredibly frustrating to be able to see this, but there are those few rotten apples that ruin the entire bunch. I'm going to give you an example, okay? The rise of the subreddit overemployed, where employees brag about holding 2 to 3 jobs remotely, is probably one of the number one reasons why you're seeing this left wing, right wing divide. And you're seeing, hey, all these employees are telling employers, these idiots have let us work remotely and we are stealing their money. An employer sees that and says, absolutely not, no one is going to be working remotely. Here's my reality. You need to stop selling remote work as freedom, and you need to start selling it as a competitive advantage. Remote work shouldn't be framed as a lifestyle choice, but as a profit-driven strategy. Okay, so executives care about results, but not remote work ideology. And this is so relevant because I've dealt with so many businesses inside of running remote. They do not care about ideology. They care about profit margins. And if you can communicate to them that remote work is going to drive higher profit margins in their business, they will do it every single day. They won't do it if they're being told, just trust everybody. Just trust everybody. Because to be completely honest with you, we know that that's not true. Whether it's 1%, 5%, 10%, there are people that take advantage of remote work for everyone else. The key messaging that I want to be able to reinforce with people is that remote work equals higher ROI, lower attrition, and stronger productivity for everyone across your workforce. And smart companies aren't forcing people back, they're actually optimizing remote work. So here's my hot take on this, okay? The future acceptance of remote work is not about where you work, it's about how well you measure that particular work. And that's where we're at right now. That's what we need to focus on. And if we don't, I think we're going to lose remote work forever. That's just my take. Let me know if you disagree. You probably do. Put it down in the comments below. And hopefully you're going to be here for the next video. Thanks.